Snoop, did you find yourself after the trial, like in the studio, trying to get some stuff done? Or?
You know what? My peoples from Death Row, they took me out of town, you know what I'm saying? To release my mind. That's something I really needed, you know what I'm saying? I had fun in the water. I went to the water, I was in the sky, me and Tupac was like 30 feet in the air.
I have an announcement. I'm giving up smoke. I know what you're thinking. Snoop, smoke is kind of your whole thing. But I'm done with it. Done with the coughing and my clothes smelling all sticky icky. I'm going smokeless.
Power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it smokes, laughs, and moves slow, like it's already seen everything. There's a particular kind of strength that doesn't need to prove itself. It exists in the pauses between words, in the confidence of someone who's walked through fire and came out the other side with a smile. Snoop Dogg understands that kind of power better than most. He built it quietly, not through force, but through presence. While others tried to conquer the game with aggression and ego, he learned something far more valuable: how to outlast it. This is the story of survival, of reinvention, of a man who turned every obstacle into an opportunity. This is the story of how Calvin Broadus became Snoop Dogg, and how Snoop Dogg became immortal. Calvin Cortez Broadus Jr. was born on October 20th, 1971, in Long Beach, California, a city that moved to its own rhythm, separate from the glitz of Los Angeles, but deeply connected to its soul. Long Beach in the 70s and 80s was a paradox. Beautiful beaches met tough streets. It was a place where survival meant learning to navigate multiple worlds at once. His mother, Beverly Tate, nicknamed him Snoopy because of his love for the cartoon character. A name given with love. A name that would one day echo through speakers in every corner of the world. But childhood wasn't soft. Poverty was constant. Violence was routine. Gangs weren't just in the neighborhood. They were the neighborhood's social structure. Calvin's father left when he was 3 months old, and that absence left its mark. Young Calvin found escape in church, where he sang in the choir, learning rhythm and performance. But it was street music that really called to him. Hip-hop was exploding, and he started writing rhymes in elementary school. There was something different about his delivery. Smooth, almost lazy sounding, but beneath that smoothness was something sharp. In the late 80s, Snoop started recording homemade tapes with his cousins Nate Dogg and Warren G. They called themselves 213, the Long Beach area code. Warren G's stepbrother was a young producer making noise in Compton. Dr. Dre, fresh from leaving NWA and building something new called G-Funk. Those homemade 213 tapes somehow made their way to Dre. When he heard that voice, smooth, laid back, yet cold with truth, he knew he'd found something timeless. It wasn't just rapping ability. It was presence. Even on a poorly recorded cassette, you could hear it. Dre reached out, and everything changed. 1992, the world hears Snoop Dogg for the first time on Deep Cover. That opening line, that voice, wasn't like anything else on the radio. Confident without shouting, menacing without trying. Then came The Chronic in December 1992, and Snoop was woven into its DNA. Nothing but a G-Tang became an anthem. The video, Snoop and Dre cruising through Compton, was revolutionary in its ordinariness. Suddenly, that calm drawl from Long Beach was the soundtrack of the West Coast. When Doggy Style dropped on November 23, 1993, hip-hop changed overnight. It debuted at #1, selling over 800,000 copies in its first week. The first debut album to enter the charts at #1. Produced entirely by Dre, it was G-Funk perfection. But it was Snoop's performance that made it legendary. He wasn't rapping, he was gliding. His delivery, so effortless, it seemed like he wasn't even trying. But that ease was deceptive. Behind it was incredible technical skill. Who am I? What's my name? Gin and Juice. Murder was the case. Each became a cultural touchstone. Snoop wasn't just a rapper. He was the embodiment of West Coast hip-hop's golden age. But success came with shadows. In 1993, while Doggy Style dominated the charts, Snoop was charged with murder. His bodyguard had shot and killed a man, and Snoop was driving. For 3 years, this case hung over everything. America's biggest new rap star, selling millions while fighting for his freedom. In 1996, he was acquitted on grounds of self-defense. He beat the case, but not the weight of it. Something changed during those years. Fame doesn't protect you from the streets you came from. In the mid-90s, Death Row Records was the most powerful and dangerous label in hip-hop. Led by Suge Knight, it was printing money and headlines in equal measure. Then came Tupac Shakur, a storm in human form. They weren't just label mates. They were mirrors. Both had seen too much too young. Both knew the cost of being real in a world built on masks. Together, they ruled the mid-90s, Snoop and Pac. the West Coast Kings, making music that defined an era while navigating an industry becoming increasingly violent. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry wasn't just media hype. It was real tension with real consequences. Bad Boy Records in New York versus Death Row in LA. What started as competitive jabs escalated into something darker. Snoop, by nature, wasn't built for war. His personality, laid back, peace-seeking, put him at odds with the moment. But he was loyal, caught in a situation spiraling beyond control. When Tupac was killed in Las Vegas on September 7, 1996, the music stopped feeling like victory. He died 6 days later at just 25. For Snoop, it was devastating, a friend, a collaborator gone. But it was more than grief. It was a sign that this path led somewhere dark. 6 months later, the notorious B.I.G. was killed in Los Angeles. Two of hip-hop's greatest voices silenced. Both murders remain officially unsolved. Snoop's world shifted. Dr. Dre had already left Death Row in 1996. The label was falling apart. The violence felt suffocating. Snoop had a family now, a wife, children who needed their father alive. So he made a choice few expected. In 1998, he walked away. Chose peace over power. Chose survival over status. He left Death Row, left the wars, and chose a different path. Subscribe now for more stories about hip-hop's untouchable legends. Hit that button and join us as we explore the lives that shaped music. Most artists don't survive their first act, but Snoop wasn't most artists. He signed with No Limit Records, Master P's independent empire. His first album there, The Game Is to Be Sold, Not to Be Told, 1998, debuted at #1, proving he didn't need Death Row. But Snoop understood something crucial. Staying relevant meant staying unpredictable. Over 2 decades, Snoop explored virtually every genre. He worked with Pharrell, Kanye, artists from every corner of music. Each collaboration felt natural because Snoop approached music with curiosity rather than ego. In 2013, his boldest move, Snoop Lion. He traveled to Jamaica, worked with Diplo, and created Reincarnated, a reggae album. Critics were skeptical, but the album was genuine. In 2018, Bible of Love, a gospel album. The kid who sang in church had come full circle. Some experiments worked better than others, but that was never the point. The point was evolution, never becoming a nostalgia act, coasting on 90s glory. Snoop's reinvention went far beyond music. He launched Snoop Youth Football League in 2005, giving inner-city kids structure and opportunity. Thousands have gone through the program, with several reaching professional football. This wasn't publicity, it was genuine community investment. He entered business, cannabis products with Leafs by Snoop, tech investments including Reddit, showing business acumen that surprised those who only saw a rapper. He partnered with Martha Stewart for a cooking show. The pairing seemed absurd, a rap icon and America's homemaking queen. But their chemistry was undeniable, showcasing Snoop's ability to connect with anyone. He became an esports commentator and investor. He created digital media businesses. He appeared in commercials for everything from fast food to insurance. In 2024, Snoop became an unexpected Olympics icon as an NBC correspondent in Paris, covering events with enthusiasm and humor. Grandmothers who'd never heard a Snoop Dogg song were charmed. It was perfect Snoop, authentic, humorous, himself in any context. Every venture was another way to remain relevant, another connection to new audiences. Some called it selling out. Snoop saw it as survival through adaptation. Today, Snoop Dogg isn't just a rapper. He's a living archive of hip-hop's history. One of the last direct connections to gangsta rap's golden age, to Death Row's power and tragedy. He's on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He performs at Super Bowl halftime shows. He's referenced everywhere from academic papers to comedy sketches. But more than accolades, Snoop represents the possibility of survival. He came from the same streets as countless others who didn't make it. He faced the same system, the same violence, the same temptations. He lost so many friends. A man who faced the system, buried friends, outlived labels, and still smiles through the smoke. That smile isn't ignorance. It's the smile of someone who knows exactly how dark things can get and chooses joy anyway. Snoop's story teaches specific lessons. Authenticity is long-term strategy. He never pretended to be something he wasn't. That authenticity built trust that lasted decades. Evolution is not betrayal. He changed constantly, but remained himself. Growth didn't mean abandoning his roots. Peace is a choice. Walking away from Death Row took more strength than staying. Real power is knowing when to leave. Diversification is survival. Never rely on one thing. Multiple streams meant weathering any storm. Joy is resistance. In a world that tried to destroy him, Snoop chose to laugh, to create, to find humor. That's revolutionary. While others chased fame, Snoop mastered survival. While others fought for the crown, Snoop built a kingdom that couldn't be conquered because it was constantly being rebuilt. In 2025, Snoop Dogg is more relevant than artists half his age. He bridges generations. He's mastered every platform, his presence both omnipresent and effortless. The same magic he brought to Deep Cover over 30 years ago. Because real power? It doesn't scream. It endures. Snoop Dogg's story is ultimately about choices. The choice to turn pain into art. The choice to walk away from danger. The choice to reinvent yourself. The choice to laugh when circumstances suggest bitterness. The choice to keep creating when you could rest on glory. It's the art of survival. Not just staying alive, but staying yourself while the world changes around you. From Long Beach to the world. From Calvin to Snoopy to Snoop Dogg to Snoop Lion and back. Through courtrooms and recording studios. Through triumphs and tragedies. Through decades of change. Still here. Still relevant. Still smooth. That's the art. That's the power. That's Snoop Dogg. If this story inspired you, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Stay tuned for more tales of survival, power, and legacy from the icons who shaped music and culture. The story doesn't end here. There are legends yet to be told.